Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hot Mode, and today on Hot Mode we're getting into the Critics' Choice Awards 2025 Fashion Roast and Review. We're going to talk about a bunch of the looks from the red carpet that must be discussed. Honestly, I thought it was good. It wasn't awful. It certainly wasn't bad. I thought it was like an enjoyable moment, not really anything too crazy, but at the same time, certainly things of interest. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, we're starting off with Andrew Scott. Now he is wearing a Brioni suit. It's a pale pink silk shirt and a pale pink blazer, then a pair of white trousers and a pair of white Christian Louboutin shoes. Because here's the thing. Remember when he wore that green suit and I think he was wearing a black shoe and it was just kind of like a green boot would have been fantastic in this moment. I'm at least happy that we listened to the shoe comments. The pink and the white, too exciting. I don't think it's boring menswear either. It's just okay. I like the undone shirt. I wish there was a little bit more jewelry going on. I know that he's wearing Retrouvai, but I can't even really see the jewels. Maybe he's wearing like a watch or a whatever, but I can't really see it. You know, listen, the white and the pink wouldn't have maybe been my color choice together in this context, but again, at least we're doing something that's not just a boring suit. Next up, we have Angelina Jolie, and she is wearing Elie Saab. Now listen, it's a beige lace dress. It has like a blouson, so it kind of flows over top. I don't think that where it sort of cuts off and begins to blouse over is necessarily like a great place. It's not bad. I just don't think that it is wonderful. Maybe a little lower, I think, would have been better. It sort of has the sleeves built into the blousing over element. Doesn't really help because it's not really like a clear differentiator, and so it makes that blousing over effect wider, which I don't think really is flattering either. And then on top of it, the color, it's just this sort of antique-y beige. It feels like something you pulled out of your grandmother's closet, and like sometimes that's great. Love pulling things out, and things sometimes have like a tea stain sort of effect. I want a little excitement, a little interest, a little intrigue, a little off the rack too. Especially with Elie Saab, it's like there's a lot there to work with that's exciting and beautiful. I would have chosen maybe not that. Next up, we have Ariana Grande. She's wearing Dior haute couture and Bucherer jewelry. Jewelry's cute. I like it. The earrings, the rings. The Dior dress is really like the intriguing element. I think that this coming straight off the haute couture runway and onto Ariana Grande's body is kind of crazy. I feel like that's always the intriguing thing about the haute couture looks is that they had to have like made those before they actually showed the collection because like you couldn't just construct this that quickly, I don't believe. And I do like the fact that it fits her well. I think that it hits perfectly at the waist. I like this sort of crinoline build out netting, even the flowers, the gold sort of flowers that come down with the fringe. Like it's fun. She's also selling the garment too. I think you could look a little bit like a jellyfish. And here she's sort of moving the dress at the very least. So there is that sort of fringe in motion, which is important again to like sell you really on the dress. This sort of fishnet detail that we see all across the dress also is very a Maria Grazia choice. It's something that she constantly does. And I actually don't really mind it. I actually think it's one of the house code DNA things that she does that I actually think works usually. And here you can see all of the underworkings of the dress, which I think is also her intention as well. The pieces at the strap do sort of show off the back flower embellishment details as well. What I think is probably the smartest element of the whole look though is the black shoe in this context. In other photos that I've seen, it looks a little odd where she's wearing the black shoe, but here her feet just literally sink into this carpet. And so in reality, it's kind of perfect because your eye stays focused on the dress. It stays focused on the fringe. And the thing about that fringe is your eye is always going to move down. So we're not really focusing on the shoe at all. We're really staying centered on this dress. And you know what? It's fun for her. It's different for her. Do I wish it was a little more colorful? Because I don't really love the beige and it feels a little dried out. Pinata, as I've been saying, but at least there's something fun to it. Next up, we have Catriona Balfe, and she is wearing Prada. It's a custom look, but it's based on the most recent women's wear collection. Here's the thing. I love Prada. I will go to the ends of the earth to explain the references, what we're looking at, what we're seeing. This one I can't really do that with. I know that this is based on the runway, and there were these really intriguing sort of leather belts with hardware harnesses that came into skirts and pants and all the different kinds of things. We can also see the grommet work at the neckline, which is a very Prada thing to do. I actually like the enlarged grommets. I think that it's a cool way to sort of trim that neckline and feels very different. And I do think that she carries the dress nicely, but the look itself, don't think is great. It's just a little odd with the belt there and the crop top, the two-piece. It just, too avant-garde, too funky for me. Next up, we have Colman Domingo, who's wearing Boss. Honestly, I love it. I really, really love it. I love when he does a beautiful suit. And also notice brown suit jacket, brown pant, brown silk shirt. We have this sort of maroony cravat situation going on underneath the shirt. And I like the way that he slings a coat over his shoulder. Like, he wears it so well. And I used to hate when people would do this, especially like menswear. People would be like, putting the coat over my shoulder. Colman, it's fine with me. He can do it as much as he wants because he always wears a beautiful coat over top of his suit. And I think it's such a cool way to, again, elevate men's suiting. This, I don't know if it's real. It looks like a skin of sort, or a few skins patched together. Maybe it's faux. I don't really know. I also can't really see Boss doing like real skins. If it is real skins, I think it's beautiful. I like a skin. I know it's bad of me, but they feel stunning. I like the shine of them. But I will also say that even if it's not, which it probably is not real, it looks very authentic. And so that also helps to me. Overall, maybe just change the shoe to brown and I would have been 100% sold, but like I'm 98% sold right now. Next up, we have Cynthia Erivo. She's wearing Armani Privé. It's this peplum gown, which I believe is fully sequined. And then it seems to have some sort of like, I'm going to say a resin, chemical treatment to it that makes it really, really shine, and not in the way that sequins shine individually, but rather the actual coating of it seems to shine and reflects all the light off of it. I would say this is probably one of Cynthia's like most simple looks that I've seen on her. And again, I think it just proves that she's really, really brilliant at being able to pull these pieces off. She can do highfalutin, avant-garde, and out there, and she can also do just sort of simple, clean, easy glamour. And so it's nice to see her in something like this. Even though it's simple, even though it's clean, there's just something a little different. That coating really sort of changes the dress. It makes it feel she's wearing beautiful tires that have been turned into Armani Privé Haute Couture. Again, love the earrings, as per usual. Great job. Next up, we have Dakota Fanning, who's wearing Dolce and Gabbana and jewelry by Irene Neuwirth. Now, listen, let's talk about the dress first. I don't mind the concept of it. I enjoy the way the dress material comes underneath the actual bust area of the corset. I think what throws me off is the fact that I can see everything underneath. And sometimes in other colors, maybe other fabrics, it could work. But I think something about the stretch of the actual dress feels a little cheap, and so it kind of kills any vibe. I really wish that it wasn't sheer at all. I wish it was a rather opaque fabric and I didn't have to see the boning of the corset, because I don't think that it actually helps whatsoever. I wouldn't mind seeing all the seams and the stitches on the actual bust area here because it's exposed and it's meant to be, but I think underneath it throws me off. The color is lovely on her, and I also think that the jewelry choice, this big flourish, also works rather well. It's the sheer that I can't get behind. Next up, we have Danielle Deadwyler. She's wearing Prada and Bucherer. Please. Divine, stunning, gorgeous. Now, I know you're going to say, Luke, you literally just didn't like that whole exposing the neckline thing. This, I think, is brilliant. First things first, when Prada does pink like this, they nail it. Like, it's just a color that's synonymous with the brand. Mutual Prada and Raf Simons, they know what they're doing. I think that the shape of the actual satin is lovely. The way that it hits the floor is gorgeous. And I like this bandeau experience going on because it keeps everything covered, but it ties in what's going on in the train and the dress. Now, this shiny organza that we're seeing is beautiful. It's something that, if you remember, Hunter Schafer wore a version of it to the last Golden Globes. It's a material that Prada's been playing with for a while, but I haven't really seen it too much recently until we started looking back at those Hunter Schafer looks for the end of year reviews. I love this version that it exposes but also covers. I think that the way it ties in on the train as well is lovely. I think that the gloves work. I think this is like one of those Prada moments where it all comes together and it's a little weird, it's a little avant-garde, but still so beautiful, so classic, so easy to understand that you could get behind the artistic take on classic glamour. If that, like, I think that's what Prada does super duper well. An artistic, different way of going about doing something that will make the wearer look regal and also, I assume, feel regal too. I love this. Next up, we have Demi Moore, who's wearing Schiaparelli. This is an haute couture look. Here's what I'm going to say. I like the color on her and I like the shape of the actual dress, not the neckline, not the ribbon. I like the way that it fits at the waist and creates these exaggerated hip details. They're not like pulling Demi Moore's corset so tight that her spleen is gasping for air. Rather, I assume that the dress probably has padding built into the hips, and so it just exaggerates the look without actually making the wearer uncomfortable. In case we needed to know. Now we know. What I'll say is the Schiaparelli Haute Couture collection that this is from did this really intriguing shoe detail, like a heel that would pop out of necklines, and so I assume that's kind of what we're getting here a little bit. I think it looks a little birthday party hat to me at the neckline. But the part that's really meant to be interesting from what I've read is the back of the dress, because it's a sort of lace-up corset and it pays homage to The Substance, which is the movie that Demi Moore is going to the award shows for. This way that there is a stitching of sort that goes on her back. And so that's kind of like what people are saying it is. And if that's the case, her stylist Brad Goreski and her are doing a very good job of playing into this idea of method dressing without it feeling super on the nose. And I think that's even better. It also makes me feel like I need to watch all the Oscars movies because I suck at it. From the front, I don't love it. From the back, if this is true, great. If it's not, we're doing a really good PR campaign. Next up, we have Hannah Einbinder, and she is wearing custom Louis Vuitton. It's this green satin, what I'm calling the trapezoid dress. It's something that we've been seeing little hints of. If you guys remember, Brie Larson wore something that was similar. It was by Prada. It was to the Met Gala in 2024. It was like an orange dress that had a sheer sort of lavender over top. It was like a cage skirt. Here's the thing. I think that Hannah's is better because of the opaqueness of it. Maybe if it was all the same color, I don't know. It was a little mosquito netty for me when Brie did it. But I think that this is kind of like a mastery of the silhouette because it's ridiculous. It's out there. Skier sort of playing with time travel, which is something he's been doing for quite some. And I like the idea of like the pen being brought into a more, maybe not modern, but more princess silhouette, because that's really what this is. It's a fitted bust, nipped in waist, exaggerated hip, flares out, but instead of continuing to flare in like at A sort of shape, it really sort of just drops immediately when it hits the top of the hip and creates this sort of odd trapezoid bell thing. It's really harsh. It's really rectangular and angular. I don't know. I kind of love it. I think the color is fantastic on her. There's not really any bells and whistles besides just the shape, which I think is also really important. It's something that the LV custom team and Nicolas Ghesquière have really honed in on, is take an idea and really whittle it down till it's perfect. And I feel like that's honestly been a really nice thing to see over the past year or two. I love the matching shoe, the matching green satin shoe. Divine. Yeah, I don't need anybody else to get this. I get it. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I think it's a cool way to go about a new shape, yet it's actually really kind of simple if you think about it. It's just a green satin dress. It's just the shape is a little different from what we're used to. Next up, we have Jeff Goldblum. Jeff's wearing a lot. He's wearing what I believe is a Saint Laurent jacket, some Prada on the tie. I think they're Tom Ford pants and a Jacob & Co. watch. Listen, I actually love the jacket. I think it's really fun. If it's Saint Laurent, it's beautiful. If it wasn't Saint Laurent, it would also be beautiful, but it's just, I want to make sure I'm getting it right. I love this motif. I love the embellishments. The little mini crystals are stunning. The shirt and the tie, if they're from Prada, cool. They let the jacket do the work. Same thing with the pants. And the watch, huge and sparkly and green, and I assume maybe a reference to the fact that he's the Wizard of Oz, who wears green in Wicked. But overall, I enjoyed it. Next up, we have Leighton Meester. I'm just naming it now. Hands down, best dressed. Best dressed. And it's Dior. It's Christian Dior. And I'm saying it's best dressed because it is. Leighton Meester looks stunning in this gold sheer Maria Grazia Curie designed gown. I love this sort of draped bust thing with the off the shoulder. Maybe it's taken me years to figure out that I like it. I don't know what it is, but lately every time I see them, they're really just beautiful dresses. Like they nail simplicity, they nail ease, they nail elegance. They're not like prudish because you can see through to the actual like corset. There's that sheer panel. We can also see that she's wearing forever fine jewelry. I think the necklace honestly perfectly works out. I would have maybe chosen gold, but like, hey, you know what? I think that to be fair. The silver does sort of juxtapose quite well against the neck and also the dress. I just think it's really pretty. It doesn't have to be super out there. We're learning that. It's an evolution. But I do think that she looks refined and elegant. And again, like, it's Dior, and I am enjoying it. Next up, we have Lupita Nyong'o. She's wearing Chanel. Matthew, start soon, please, King, because this is tough. Poor Lupita. I don't actually mind the idea of this black chiffon overlay dress thing. I think that the way it's almost falling off of the shoulders, the way that it sort of crisscrosses in front of the dress, maybe the satin belt loop ribbon thing we didn't need, but the actual silhouette is kind of sweet. I think what's really tough is that it's a floral lace cocktail dress that you kind of just wrap the black chiffon over, and I think that's where we're losing the plot. We got to pick a lane. We one or the other. It looks a little art school project, something I would assume somebody would fail you for. There's no part of this look where they really try to meet each other and compromise. It really just feels like a harsh juxtaposition, and they're rubbing and rubbing and rubbing, and it's probably not making Lupita feel like she's on fire, but it's making me. You know what I mean? It's starting to burn. I'm getting third degrees. Next up, we have Maren Mora. She's wearing Monique Lhuillier and Zales. That's the jewelry. Let's talk about the jewelry first. It's simple, easy, clean. I like it. It doesn't interact too much with the dress, but I think that's fine. I like this dress. I don't think that it's the most radical thing in the entire world, but I think it's far from ugly. I think that the white sort of overlay actually helps. I think that the double trains on the side could be a little bit less wrinkled, but nobody's perfect. Overall, I just think it's a good way to do simple and easy without it feeling, I don't know, basic and boring. You could think it's basic and boring. I don't think that it's necessarily that. I think that it looks pretty, it's intriguing, but it's not crazy. Next up, we have Margaret Qualley. She's also wearing Chanel. Here's the thing. I don't really mind the dress part. It feels very floaty, very 1920s into the 1930s Chanel to me. I assume that she's wearing like Chanel fine jewelry as well. I actually kind of like the necklace. I don't really know what it is. It's kind of like a gridded blob, but I like the color on her. I like the floatiness of the dress. I just wish that it didn't have, it's like a sequin belt and then it blouses over. I really love the sleeve on her. I really like the length on her. Again, I like this like Earl Grey on her too. I think the headband is good. I just think it's that one little belt problem. Maybe if we bloused it over a little more, would have been better. Maybe not sequining the belt. I don't know. I want to like this. It's just like one little itty bitty line that I can't get over. Next up, we have Marissa Abella, and she is wearing Dior. Again, I like this dress too. It's a pretty simple red velvet gown, but it works. She looks pretty in it. I'm not going to complain. It's a Dior silhouette, although could be more exciting, of course, but I don't know. As far as like Dior goes, I think it's good. I think it works. I don't know what's happening, but something's moving and grooving and I'm enjoying it. I don't know. Maybe I'm softening, but like maybe. I like the earrings. They're kind of like interesting little silver twigs with, I assume, some sort of jewel at the bottom. They're not really any jewelry, but again, I was kind of like, do you really need jewelry when the dress looks that good? No, probably not, but you know, you can throw it on, I'm sure. Overall, again, like simple, clean, easy, elegant, not mad. Next up, we have Matt Bomer, who is wearing Berluti and Jaeger LeCoultre. This suede blazer in like magenta is divine, and I love suede. I think we need to bring suede back. I feel like it's been gone for a minute. We need to recount it, let it back in. I love the little shirt underneath. Again, sort of pays homage. I think the jewelry under that, honestly, is fun too. I think the necklace on necklace. There's a cummerbund, a black pant. I like this grayish black shoe. I don't know who does Berluti now, but whoever's doing it, they're doing a good job. Keep it up, because I'm really into this. Next up, we have Michelle Yeoh, who's wearing Balenciaga Haute Couture and Cartier. As for the jewelry, like the jewelry, big, bold, beautiful. She's smiling through the pain, as I've been saying. I don't think I'm lying. Here's my problem with the dress. I don't mind the idea of parkas and any kind of jacket in like a tech fabric becoming a gown. It's a fine, whatever. It's what Balenciaga wants to do. More power to them. My issue is I just don't think that the dress is necessarily flattering. I also feel like the way that it's draped in this fabric is just, the jackets are like wrapped around her, and I kind of lose the idea of it being Balenciaga haute couture in a historical sense. just doing willy-nilly things. And we can say it's not willy-nilly, looks pretty willy-nilly. And I just kind of want, usually from Balenciaga Couture, like a bit of the well-thought, almost, I don't know, severe ridiculousness of Cristobal Balenciaga. The man had like 20 of Hubert de Givenchy's jackets because he was like, they made the sleeve wrong, and continuously worked them, never finished them because he couldn't perfect them. So like, that's Balenciaga. This to me, people say, oh, so-and-so would be rolling in their grave if they saw this. Cristobal Balenciaga might actually be like rolling in his grave if he saw that one. So fast that it might catch fire. Who knows? There's ways to do Balenciaga Couture. Maybe if we had piping like that little silver or white sort of piece at the bottom coming on the waist and sort of shaping the waist in a different way, but it doesn't actually make the waist any smaller, so it's really just sort of shaping the body. Like those kinds of things I could get into. I could see that, but I just think that this feels a little chuck it on her and call it a day. Next up, we have Mikey Madison, who's wearing, it's vintage Giorgio Armani. It's from 1992, so it's vintage. The other thing is she's wearing Tiffany & Co. The big diamond necklace, a little pearl earring, fun, easy. But I like this dress. Not like, I'm not obsessed with the dress, but I think it's interesting enough. The black velvet, something Armani does very, very well. The cummerbund, bringing in this idea of tailoring, suiting, which is something that Giorgio Armani has always done with his women's wear. It's an important part from my understanding. And then the gathered white skirt. It looks in pretty mint condition, to be completely honest, for something from 1992. But the thing that I love the most about it is the gloves and the fact that they have a sort of shirt cuff and a little cuff link. I feel like that's fun. I feel like it's something a little intriguing that you wouldn't normally see. And it's a way of bringing in tailoring into, again, this whole concept of it being an evening gown. You don't have to love it. It's fine. I totally get it. I just think that there's interesting elements about the actual dress that I wasn't really expecting to see, and yet here we are. Next up, we have Moeka Hoshi, and she is wearing Louis Vuitton. This is a custom look. The gathered skirt, fine. The red really honestly works great on her. The bandeau, I'm fine with. I think the issue really is like the neckline being the gathered red, and then it sort of comes back in the back. It feels a little bit like baby bib. It's like we're mid pulling it off. It's an odd thing. And again, I understand artistic, I'm into it, I get it, but at the same time, I don't think it looks good in this concept. You know what I mean? I think we need to continue to evolve. The idea is not all the way there for me at all. Next up, we have Monica Barbaro, and she is wearing Prada and Bulgari. The Bulgari jewelry, I like those earrings. They look like little shields on her ears. And then rings and all that jazz, totally fine. She's then wearing a crop top, an off-the-shoulder crop top, and a high-waisted black skirt that hits the floor. The crop top is really meant to be the interesting part, I assume. And that's because it's actually, if we look up close, made up of crystals that create this sort of flower detail. And then the crystals are actually placed on top of like bundles of fringe. And I really love Prada textures. They're weird and they're odd. And something that is really important to know about Prada is, again, this idea of embellishments or embroideries that are continuing to push traditional ideas of embellishments and embroideries. So I always respect that. I think it's always something important to note when you're looking at it. Like that is Miuccia Prada and Raf Simons' now goal. I just don't think that it lands. I don't think from afar it's super duper interesting. And then when you zoom in, I like the idea of the crystals being on the fringe, but I don't think that it pushes me any further to being more into it. It's cool, but if I didn't know, okay. Now that I know, okay. You know, doesn't really change anything to me. Just a little blah. Next up, we have Nicole Kidman, who's wearing a Saint Laurent. And here's the thing. I like the suiting idea. I think it's a fun notion. If you haven't seen our video about the most recent Saint Laurent collection for women's, it was all based on this idea of recreating Yves Saint Laurent's actual uniform. And he would wear these sort of double-breasted, wide-leg pantsuits, like that was his thing with a tie. It's very him. All the models looked like him. It was cool. It was fun. I think what my issue is the way that we've pulled up the sleeve, it just feels a little odd. And I understand that the idea is probably to like highlight the Omega watch that we're seeing on her, and also, you know, the jewelry, which I actually like the jewelry. The watch is cool too. But I get what we're doing, but I'm almost in a weird way wish we didn't push it up like that. I wish maybe we'd just like hem the sleeve so it was a little high. Either way, it just would look kind of odd regardless, so I'm not really sold. Also, the way that the pants fall, don't really love that either. The shirt and the tie, I love, and I actually like the body of the jacket. I just think it's the extremity area that is doing me harm. Next up, we have Rachel Brosnahan, and she is wearing Miu Miu. Listen, I don't mind the dress. You know what I mean? Like, it's a form-fitted black dress in satin. I actually think that it fits her impeccably. Like, it really, really does. There's a keyhole cut out. Honestly, the girls look fantastic. And then it sort of like goes to create a halter, but it doesn't. It wraps around, and then it goes into these sort of shoulder pads that are sequined, but they're not really pads. They're just sort of like panels, these shoulder panels that have black sequins on them, paillettes and all those things too. So not just sequins, more paillettes because it's big. Like, I like it, and it feels very Miu Miu. It feels kind of like perfect, but a little odd. Again, that's that Prada-ism. So I like the idea of it. I'm not like obsessed with it, but I like the idea of it. But it's okay. And finally, we have Zoe Saldana, who's wearing Saint Laurent and Cartier. First things first, the necklace, bad choice. I don't know why we did that. You have a beautiful bateau neckline on this dress. Does not need a satiny kind of choker with a crystal on it. I feel like we should have done big bangles or more rings or interesting earrings. I don't know. But like the necklace choker thing not working feels really odd and off, and like completely ruins what would have been just a beautiful neck up close and personal. I actually like the way that the dress blouses over. I think it's really lovely. The way that it drapes and the way that it sort of rolls up on the sleeve and sort of creates this little bump. Again, the bateau neckline is beautiful on her. The way that the skirt hits the floor and doesn't really have any sort of drape to it. It really just falls easily, really scrumptious. Besides that choker, she looks fantastic. And that is the end of our beautiful little Critics' Choice Awards video. So let's talk about best and worst. Best, I'm going to give to Danielle Deadwyler. I'm going to give it to Leighton Meester. I'm going to give it to Zoe Saldana, even though I didn't love the necklace. Matt Bomer, I really liked. Colman, I'll put in there as well. Marissa Abella in that Dior. Oh, and Hannah Einbinder. Really enjoyed. Really, really enjoyed. I think that's good. Let's talk about worst. Katrina Balfe, didn't love. Moeka Hoshi, I didn't love. Nicole Kidman, didn't love. Michelle Yeoh, also did not love. Anybody else? Oh, Angelina Jolie, meh, would pass immediately. And Demi Moore, I guess I'll put in there. I wasn't getting it. But I hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. And TTYL.